Hello again, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Ariel Helwani Meets. This man absolutely needs no introduction, but let me just say we are in the presence of greatness, the incomparable, the inimitable, the phenom, the Deadman, the American badass himself, the one and only, the Undertaker. This might be our most special one yet. This is a huge honor for me. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for doing this.
I don't know if I'm going to live up to all that, though, bro.
No, you will. And you know, this is very special for me because I've only interviewed you once before in person, face to face.
Right.
And I think you remember that time, October of 2010. This is the rematch.
Put the fighting world on its.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
People still come up to me. I'm still not even sure what happened. I know we talked briefly about it. I'm still not even sure how I ended up in that spot.
Yeah.
But I'm very grateful that I did.
That just happened, man. That part of it just happened. That just was like the icing on the cake.
Amazing.
I went there to pick a fight, and then you wanted to talk to me a little bit, and it all kind of went down right there in front of you.
I think the wrestling, the fighting gods just kind of
everything worked perfectly that night. And then, like I said, you wanting to grab a couple words from me was just like. To ask for anything better than that.
Amazing.
That was a really, really fun night, and probably not so much for Brock, but
people still to this day tell me, you want to do it? That's
all.
Yeah.
Still
get it.
They hit you with that?
Till this day. I mean, we could have sold merch. We could have done a whole bunch of stuff with that.
Yeah, we undersold ourselves there, didn't
exactly. This is special because we're actually backstage right now. You're doing one of your Deadman, your Deadman shows.
One Deadman show, yeah.
That you started. Which I think, and I'd love to know the genesis. I was at the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. You killed it, obviously. I think you went for like 137 minutes, is what I heard.
It was a long time.
It was a long speech, but it was great because you were opening up, you were telling stories, and then since then, I think you did it at SummerSlam, Cardiff. We're here in San Antonio. You're doing it in Montreal. So this has become a thing, a staple. Yeah. How did this all start? You doing these one-man shows?
Yeah, I think what happened was I didn't say much for 30 years. Outside of the Undertaker character, you only got, what I was trying to sell on TV. And then, as it kind of started, I think, when I started promoting The Last Ride and, the A&E thing, when I kind of finally lifted the curtain and started talking about those things, then the Hall of Fame speeches, I screwed up and let people know that I could actually talk. And, the WWE was like, oh no, we got another 30 years out of him now, right? But yeah, that was kind of that was kind of the genesis of the whole thing, was the Hall of Fame speech. And I love performing in the ring and doing that, but I really love being, in the bar, in the hotels afterwards, having some adult beverages, just shooting the crap with the guys. And just telling stories, and then as I became kind of the elder statesman, and all these young kids would come up and they want to hear about all that stuff, and just telling stories about things that had happened, through my 30 plus, this will mark my 36th year in the business, and just telling those stories, we kind of figured out, hey, this is what people clamor for now, right? They're more interested in the dirt and what's going on backstage and who's got heat with who, that I think they just want to hear all this stuff. And like I said, since I didn't say anything for 30 years, it's just like, no, he's talking about what?
Speaking of which, you have always been very protective of the business. Mm-hmm. That was always the reputation that you had.
Right.
So is there a part of you that is still trying to hold on to some things and feels like in so many words, like you're almost betraying that old guy who for so long was told you don't give out these stories?
Yeah, that's funny, man. You're very intuitive. I do. I'll find myself sometimes as I'm in the middle of a story and I start thinking ahead of like where this is going, then I start having this inner battle, like, do I want to go that far? And so I'm trying to tell the story, and then I'm also like, oh man, no, it's okay. So I have that. I do. And there's certain things that I'll say sometimes that just, I'm almost saying it with clenched teeth, because it goes against everything that, that I did. And it actually, sometimes it becomes part of the show, because I can't tell you like how many times people like are, I read, somebody will tweet or something like that, like, oh, well, there goes my childhood. It's like now that I'm talking I'm the last one by several years that tried to protect the business in any sense of the imagination.
Right.
And now I get all the heat, right? I get all the heat because I'm finally the one and I don't even give half of what most people do, but it's like, yeah, no, you ruined my childhood.
Yeah.
You can't put that on me, man.
Where did that start? Because actually earlier today, Bubba Ray Dudley, Bully Ray, actually tweeted something about you with regards to this. It was him in front of a picture of Andre the Giant. And he said one of the best compliments he ever received was that you told him one day that Andre would respect him and Devon very much because of how they respected the business. And so that has always been something that has followed you. Like, you're the guy who respects the business, the integrity. Where did that get instilled in you?
I think it come from my love of the business. I come up in that era, like, anybody marks the business, you defend the business, right? Anybody says it's fake, you prove it's not, kind of a mentality. And I just everybody understands what it is that we do, but I just think at this point I think everybody goes out of their way to. It's like I've heard Vince use it. Like, the magician doesn't. Everybody knows it's an illusion, but you still don't know how it's done. And I think there's a tendency in this era, in social media and everything, it's like to give it all up. And I still think people. I think they still sometimes want to believe, or they want to be able to get caught up in being in the moment and forgetting what we're doing is just entertainment, and that's the way that I approached how I worked. I have this over-the-top character. Is he dead? Is he alive? Is he? What is he? He throws lightning bolts. He does all these different things, which is all great. But when I was in the ring, like when I threw a punch at somebody, like, I wanted people to go, the other might have been fake. That punch right there, that hit. That's different. We're entertainment. That's fine. But I just don't believe that you should give everything away. And I think there should be aspects that only the ones on the inside should know.
Could your character, let's say you have the same longevity, but it starts in 2023, could that same character have had the same run, or different times?
You know what? It would be very difficult.
Why do you think so?
Just because everyone now, there's anything you do, anything that happens, there's a phone that has a camera. And before you see somebody get in an accident, people break out their cameras before they call 911.
Right.
I mean, it's just it's the way our society is. I was able to live this character because I didn't have to worry about that for the the beginning of it. I didn't have to worry about sitting in the airport and in shorts and a Hawaiian shirt and somebody like, oh, look, the Undertaker. I didn't have to worry about that then. Everybody sees somebody and it's just like immediately they want to film them and see what's going to happen. And I think it would be really, really difficult at this point to have a character, especially one that was kind of over the top as the Undertaker was, and try and start it in 2023. I would like the challenge to do it, and I'd give it a hell of a run. But I just think it would be, it's just so difficult. And then having kids too, and trying to be part of their lives.
Right. Yeah. Tough.
It's tough to be on the softball fields or and.
Right.
Like, yeah, this guy, he's not so dead. No, he's a regular guy. We call him arguing balls and strikes with him, but like, oh, he's one of those kind of dads, right? It's really difficult, but I do think that a lot of our talent, and just not just our talent, but just in general, like, they don't understand any concept of protecting a character or even developing a character enough to want to protect it. They go and do something on TV, and then you go to their social media, and then they're just they're completely different.
Right.
And I'm a dinosaur. Ariel. I am. I mean, my mentality is still 20 years ago, but I guess there's a reason too why I lasted as long as I did. But I do have a, it's just like, gosh, just live it a little bit. You don't have to go to the extremes that I did, but man, just kind of protect, kind of be in real life just a little bit.
Right.
If you're going to post something, at least have it kind of match what you're trying, because that's what you're trying to convince people. You're this or you're that, and I don't know.
What do you like about the business right now, or maybe specifically who? But like, what really has you feeling good about the state of the business?
I mean, I love the athleticism now. What guys are doing. I guess it's the video game era. I've gotten a lot of heat over saying that guys play video games too much and they don't pay enough attention to the work. But what they can do physically is just, I mean, stuff that I couldn't even imagine doing. And these guys are, they're all like human video games. The way that their dedication to taking care of themselves, far better than my generation did. There's a lot less bad habits. They guys, they consider themselves professional athletes and conduct themselves and that way. And then just like I said, just the evolution of the athleticism is nuts to me. I just watch sometimes. I'm like, how do you even think that? How do you even think to do that?
Right.
I mean, it's one thing thinking it and then being able to go out and do it is just like, phew, man, I'm glad I could throw a punch.
Who are some of your favorites right now?
The girls, man. The girls are kind of next level. It's good to see them given the opportunities now that they weren't given. I remember, my wife, Michelle, having to fight and claw to get anything, remotely edgy or on TV and given those opportunities, and see the girls given the same opportunities the guys are now and delivering. Like Charlotte, she may be the best talent on the whole roster.
Speaking of the current product, I'd be remiss if I don't ask you about this. We recently saw you on television again, the 30th anniversary show. Great scene, great to see the American Badass back, and I want to ask you about that character in particular, but the moment that you tweeted about afterwards was you and Bray Wyatt and you whispering something in his ear, and a lot of people have been wondering what that was. Could you do us the honor of telling us and the world what you told Bray Wyatt in that moment?
Well, if I'd have wanted the whole world to know, I would have said it out loud.
Sure.
So, no, that was a moment between Bray and I.
And you did legitimately tell him something, right?
I did. No. I definitely did. And he is kind of a throwback. He is really into developing the character and making everything make sense, which I really appreciate. I didn't really have. I mean, they just kind of told me, they wanted to be a part of which segment, and I was happy to be involved with him because I really enjoy his work, and I know he gets that part of it, the storytelling aspect and having things make sense. So,
did he know that you would say something to him, or was that off the cuff?
No. I told him they had a different vision. They didn't even know that I wasn't going to have the hat and coat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, they were totally thought that I was coming.
Oh, wow.
Old Undertaker. And I was like, no, that's part of me and the storytelling, right? When I lifted the curtain, when I lifted it back and pulled it back, then that's gone. It's gone now.
So you're done with that?
I won't bring the hat and coat back out. No.
Never.
And
not a one-off at WrestleMania. Why do you feel that way? Again, because
so when I went to the American Badass earlier, there was kind of an event that happened. I went away, I was injured, and then I came back, and then I had that new presentation, and then the same thing when I went away again, which was something really big that kind of put me back into that old school Undertaker kind of mindset. Again, with me, now that I'm, people know that, I can talk and that I have, actual thoughts that aren't revolved around, digging holes and taking souls. I think that character will live forever in our memory, but I don't think that I can bring it back, after the last ride, after the A&E biography, after doing all these shows. I just think it works.
Was that your idea, the
Yeah.
American Badass? No, meaning the original version.
Yeah. I don't think in that time period, as cool as that Undertaker character is or was, I think it would have really struggled in the Attitude Era, because you're kind of handcuffed in what you can do, right? You've got all these guys cutting these these incredible promos, and everything's kind of up in the air. There's not much of a you think you could pretty much say it during the Attitude Era, and I always felt like it was going to be really difficult for me to stay in the confines of what the Undertaker did and try and cut promos against The Rock or Stone Cold or all those guys, because it was just it was the wild, wild west right then. So I had to take the kind of the parameters off so that I could hang and be relevant with that whole new fan base that we got all of a sudden out of that.
I saw a former writer on Twitter on Monday on the Raw 30th, the night of the Raw 30th show, say that he had once, while he worked for WWE in the past, I don't know if you saw this, he said he once suggested to Vince to bring back the American Badass, and Vince told him, according to this writer, former writer, never suggest that again.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Did he not like it?
I don't. No, he liked it, I think, initially, just for the just the sake of change and everything. But no, I mean, he loved his Undertaker, man.
Okay.
His old school Undertaker. He never envisioned me leaving, retiring. If it would have been up to him, I'd still be out there, at least choke slamming somebody now and then.
Wow.
I don't think he ever thought the day would come where I would say, I'm done.
Speaking of which, he retired in July, and now he is back in the mix, at least as of the time that we're taping this. Who knows what could happen?
Yeah.
A lot has happened over the last few months.
No kidding, right?
Holy smokes. Are you surprised to see him back? I saw an interview with, that look says no. Nick Khan, the CEO of WWE, told Bill Simmons that if anyone believed that Vince McMahon was going to retire off a tweet, like, they don't really know Vince McMahon. So I'm assuming you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
You knew he would always come back?
Yeah, he called me the day before.
Okay.
He announced, and we got in an argument because I thought he was ribbing me. Like, I said, there's no way. There is absolutely no way you're stepping away. He said, he was like, no, Marty, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm like, it's like, no, why are you me, right? Like, why? This is me. And we actually ended up kind of going at it a little bit. And finally, I was like, all right, okay. And sure enough, the next day, Vince resigned. But I knew there's no way he'd stay away. Even in this role, I think it's going to be challenging for him. He's just, that's his baby, man. He's the one that created this whole thing. I know he wants to, make sure that these TV deals and everything are done, the right way. And right now, I think that's his sole motivation. But that's Vince McMahon, man. You just, I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But a WWE without Vince is that's just hard to imagine.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, if they do in fact sell it, they've been open about that. Do you foresee a scenario where he is not a part of it, or does he, like, knowing him the way in which you do, is he still going to be a part of it?
I would have a really hard time imagining that there wouldn't be some kind of contingency that he has some type of control there. I don't think, even if the company was to get sold, which I don't, I have I don't have any feeling one way or another whether that's going to happen or not. But trying to, I just can't imagine somebody coming in and buying the company and running it the same way with the just the dedication to detail the way it's run now.
How do you think Triple H has done as head of creative?
I think he's done great.
Yeah.
I think he's done really. He has always been such a creative force. Even when he was just a talent, You know, I mean, he just always had great ideas, and I mean, it was a perfect position, I think, for him. I think he's done a really, really good job under a really difficult situation too. You know, I mean, I can't imagine, you know, what he and Stephanie and, you know, everybody was. I'm kind of glad that I've stepped away a little bit during all this period, because, you know, I would have probably been bat crazy about a lot of this stuff. But I think, you know, I think he's done a great job. You know, obviously it's different, but that's not necessarily a bad thing too. You know, I think he's a little bit, you know, more in tune right now with, you know, our audience and our, you know, where the product is. You know, but I think as a whole, I think he's done a really good job.
Imagine in the 90s someone would have told you that Triple H would be head of creative, or Hunter Hearst Helmsley, you know, mid-90s, he's kind of like moving up the ladder.
Right.
And HBK, troublemaker that he was to a degree, is head of, you know, the new era NXT. Like for you, I know you go backstage from time to time, seeing those two guys now in this role, that they, you know, one's leading the charge on the main roster, the other NXT. What is that like for you?
Yeah, it makes me feel old, man. Because we were all kids and you know, traveling up and down the roads trying to be relevant. But it's good. I mean, it really is, because my gosh, I mean, those are two. If you look at their bodies of work, I mean, it's pretty impressive. You know, there's a lot of times that people are put into situations and they really never did anything, right? I mean, you could be in the business and kind of be irrelevant.
Right.
But those are two guys that have lived it. They've been successful. They've been at the top of the page. They know, you know, they've had to overcome adversity, you know, personal, physical. You know, they've dealt with a lot. So they can relate to our roster, and probably have to deal with things that the guys now will never have to deal with. But it's nice to know that they've been on the road and they've done the things that they've done. You know, because when they ask you to do something, you can't very well go, "Oh, screw you! You're not the one out taking the bumps." Oh yeah, no, it kind of did.
Right,
yeah,
right,
you know,
right.
for a long time, and so. You know, it's crazy to think, especially Shawn. I could always kind of envision Paul, because Paul was a straight-laced dude. Like he didn't have bad habits, and like I said, he was always really very creative type, as was Shawn. But Shawn obviously had a few more demons, you know. But he overcome that, and you know, matured, and is just a phenomenal person now. And you know, man, what just a as far as a talent, I mean, Shawn is, I mean, that's top, you know, that's top tier talent, Mount Rushmore kind of talent, in my opinion, right? And to have that at that level, at that starting level for so many guys, to, you know, for him to be hands-on, I mean, that's just, I mean, you can't put a price tag on that as far as how important that is, to have somebody that has those experiences working with young talent. I mean,
would you ever want to do that?
I've been approached about doing it. My deal is, you know, is trying to take what I did in my era and applying it to where the product is now. It's tough. It's tough for me. I'm still coming to grips with not being in the ring too. It's tough for me. You know, when I even the other night, you know, I have to say, man, I was in the ring. I'm like, man, I'm feeling pretty good, knowing that, like, no, it's not gonna. It'll
never happen.
I don't think so.
No.
You never. Like I said, you never say never. I don't really have any aspirations to get back in the ring. I would love to be able to. I mean, in my mind and in my heart, there's nothing I'd rather do.
Really.
But physically, I can't deliver what I think people need, or what people would expect from me. And you know, I have this conversation a lot of times, like, oh, no, all you'd have to do was go out and you know, choke slam somebody and roll your eyes, and I'm like, yeah, I can't do it that way. I can't live off the equity that I've built up 20, 30 years. You know, my legacy means something to me, and I don't want to be, you know, I tell people that I can't. If I'm on TV, I'm taking time away from somebody else that's going to be on the road and is going to be, you know, is going to be relevant, you know, 5, 10 years down the road. I just can't, you know, I just can't do it. I can't physically give people what they expect when they see Undertaker's name on the page. So I don't want to become a parody of myself.
You mentioned something there that piqued my interest. You said Mount Rushmore. This is like a fun debate among fans, right? I'd love to know, do you have a Mount Rushmore?
Do I get 4?
Yeah, you get 4.
Oh, Andre, Flair. That's kind of where it gets clouded.
It's interesting there, right?
It really gets clouded there. You're gonna
can't sit on the fence. You've already committed to 2.
All right, and those 2 are easy.
They are?
Yeah, I think those 2 are
top,
easy.
huh?
You're right off the top. I mean, Andre, what he meant to the business. Most people don't realize what he actually meant to the business because it was before, you know, cable and all the places that he had to go and everything and what he meant. I mean, he was such an attraction.
Did you ever meet him?
Yeah.
You have a relationship with him?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh. Killed. So, you know, Andre didn't like big guys for most part. And for some reason, he loved me. And, you know, it was kind of, when I came in, he was right there at the end, and he was working just a little bit. His knees and his back were really, really bad. But he always had this idea, you know, and he, you know, I'd come into the dressing room and I'd say, "Hey, boss, how you doing today?" And, "Oh, good, kid, you know, good." He's like, "One day, me and you, we make big money."
Wow.
I was like, "Really, boss?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've got idea." I was like, "Oh, well, let me hear about it." No. He was so old school. Like, he would never tell me. And then even Tim White, who traveled with him, he wouldn't tell Tim either.
Wow.
But he had this huge angle that he wanted to do with me, and he never told a soul.
Oh, man. And so
To this day, no one knew.
Wow.
No one, yeah, he took it to the grave with him.
Wow.
Yeah. But
and did you ever?
I never got to work with
Never
him.
got not even a house show, nothing. Wow. Is that a regret?
Yes, huge.
Oh,
yeah.
Is that regret number 1, considering how much you admire him?
Yeah, I would have loved just to been in the ring with Andre. I mean, yeah, I remember meeting him as a young kid, you know, in Houston. Houston, for Paul Bosch, went to the Sam Houston Coliseum there in Houston, and I don't know, I might have been 12 years old.
Wow.
You know, I shook his hand, and I was like, you know, I was just like, I can't believe his hand was that big. And then, you know, all those years later, to be in the same dressing room with him, and it was very cool. It was real surreal, but.
Guess you're not off the fence here.
I thought I was going to get out of that. If I talked long enough, I'd get out of it.
So Flair.
All right, Flair, Andre, Austin. And I'm just, you know, there's so many different parameters here of like, okay, who's an in-ring talent, who's this, and all that. I'm just kind of going with like their effect on the industry. Mm-hmm. So I'll go Andre, Flair, Austin, and Hogan probably.
Wow. That one took a little bit to come out.
Yeah.
Why?
You know why.
Right.
It is what it is.
I mean, in the 80s.
That brother, he's the golden goose, man.
Right.
I mean, it didn't get much bigger than, you know, Austin and Hogan. I mean, their impact on the industry was, I mean, it was crazy.
We're approaching WrestleMania. You are Mr. WrestleMania. The streak was incredible. Still think, by the way, till this day it should have never ended, but we don't have to open that can of worms. Your favorite of the WrestleMania matches?
Had to be WrestleMania 25 with Shawn. I mean, that was as close to perfect that I'd ever been involved in. It was so cool. Like the thing working with, you know, those 4 matches, the 2 with Shawn and then the 2 with Triple H. You know, that's the way I look at it, and everything's about storytelling. Like that's one continual story. That's 4 WrestleManias that kind of, the story just kind of kept developing, right? So, you know, Heaven or Hell, I think with Shawn was the first one, which was 25. It's about as close to perfect a match that I'd ever been in. I mean, if I want to pick something apart, I guess I could.
Sure.
But I mean.
So would it be fair to say not just favorite WrestleMania match maybe favorite match ever of yours?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Wow,
on every, like, if you take in consideration the stage, you know, it's WrestleMania, which is our biggest event, and it was a wrestling match, right? It wasn't really like a gimmick, any kind of gimmick match, which I'm not taking away from gimmick matches, but it was once a ding ding ding, it was a wrestling match between, you know, two guys that had really, really good careers, really healthy careers. And I mean, we're both in our 40s and that. And I, you know, like I said, I'll put it pretty much against anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's about as vain as I get when I talk about that match, because that's just how, I mean, it was, like I said, it was really hard to pick anything apart. And you know, you feel it when you're out there, and it's just like, man, this is, what was so cool about it, where I was going with that is, like, when I worked with, especially those last 10, 15 years of my career, like, a lot of times when people get in the ring, they're intimidated. You know, a lot of them grew up, you know, watch me. Now they're in the ring and huge stars for themselves, but they get a little, you know, the lights go out and, you know, the fog and the fire starts. People get, you know, they would get, and they would tell me this, right? You know, it's like, man, it's like the hair on my arm was standing up, you know, I'm like, are you freaking Mark?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
No, but what ends up happening a lot of times is, like, not only do I have to think for myself, a lot of times I have to think for my opponent too. With Shawn and Triple H, you know, all I had to do was be Undertaker, right? Because I knew Shawn had Shawn, right? And he didn't have to think for me. I didn't have to think for him. All he had to do was his thing, and I did my thing, and our chemistry was, which was always, you know, really, really, we had great chemistry. Even when I didn't care for him as a human being, there was not many people that I had rather work with.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's.
Were there times when you were working with them and you weren't on the best of terms?
Oh yeah, those. You
How
know,
tough is that?
You know, I think that's one of the things, like, business always comes first, right? And that's something that Vince taught me. I mean, because that was something that I had to grow into. Like, if I had beef with somebody, then, you know, I felt like I needed to, you know, it needed to be dealt with in some way. And, you know, Shawn was just Shawn back then. And, you know, but like I said, man, when in the ring, he's just magic, man. He's just so ahead of his time. He was so smooth, and he was just so good. Yeah, it even became better because by the time we get to 25, we get to WrestleMania 25. Now, Shawn's a completely different human being. You know, I have, like, the utmost respect for him now, because he's, you know, he's taken his life and he's did, you know, a complete 180. You know, he's turned everything around, and now he's a good dude, and he's fun to be around, and, you know, hatchets buried. And it wasn't like, he never did anything to me really personally. It was just the way he conducted himself that I took, you know, exception to. I mean, he never, you know, he never said anything to me or tried to do anything to me, but I just didn't like the way that he conducted business. And you know, he was kind of difficult before he left there. But like I said, now everything's, you know, we're on the other side of all that. Now we're friends, and we get to go out and share, you know, we get to share that moment of, you know, WrestleMania 25 and 26. That 26 was tough, man.
Because you have to try to top it?
Well, not only do you have to live up to the match the year before, but it's his last match.
Oh, yeah.
That is not fun, man. That is, I mean, it's fun.
It's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure to have somebody of Shawn Michaels, his ilk, to have his last match, man. That's a huge career that you're responsible for giving him that last match, which was, you know, he had to do for Flair. Well, sort of.
Sort of, yeah.
You know what I meant? At the time.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
It
at the
was built as
time.
such.
And then, you know, to roll that into the matches with, you know, with Triple H, and then Triple H trying to take up for his buddy, and then, you know, tell him that's, you know, the story. And Vince did not want to do that either.
Why not?
Vince did not. Well, he wanted the match. He just didn't like me getting carted out, right? So WrestleMania, 27, I go over, but I don't have enough left to walk out. So they brought the gator down, put me on the gator, carted me out.
And that was legit?
Huh? I was beat. I mean.
And he didn't want to do that because he felt like it made you look
his
weak?
Undertaker walks out.
Wow.
Yeah, he's that character, man. I mean, that's his baby.
Right.
I mean, it really take Mark out of the equation. The Undertaker, that's his, and he could not visualize his Undertaker laying on a cart.
Right.
And and me and Paul, we've always been on the same page creatively, and I was like, well, what if we do this, right? He's like, I'm going to go over, but you walk out. Oh, man, it's like, oh man, that's great, that's awesome, right? Nobody ever, and even nobody imagines the Undertaker getting carted out, right? Especially Vince.
Right, yeah.
He's, damn, no, my Undertaker walks out. I'm like, but what if he doesn't?
Right.
Then, that set up the Hell in the Cell. So the next year, Hell in the Cell with Shawn is this, it all comes around full circle. Shawn's the special guest referee, and, that was the end of an era.
By the way, I've heard you talk about how the decision to end the streak happened the day of, right? Mm-hmm. Were you ever close to losing prior to that? Were there ever any close calls that happened the day of as well that we don't know about?
Never that got to me.
Okay.
By the time that we got to WrestleMania, it was, I pretty much knew what was going to go down. But yeah, there was a few people, I guess, that he wanted to break the streak.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's?
Well, Kozlov. He wanted him to.
Come on.
Yeah.
Really?
It was early on. It was early on. He thought
we should be happy that it ended the way it did.
And I think he wanted. Edge.
Really?
To go over. Edge refused.
Refused?
Yeah.
Wow.
He said, no, I can't do it.
Why?
That's how much he respected the streak and me, and what he thought that streak meant to the business.
Wow. Did you know that?
I didn't know it at the time.
Wow.
No, I didn't know that till years after.
Did you talk to him about it?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just.
That's incredible.
Yeah. No, really. I mean, that just says a lot about human being he is. But I mean, he Edge grasped how important the streak had become. Mm-hmm. And he just didn't. He said, I don't want that. I don't think it's the right thing. And he just didn't. He said no.
Should Brock have said the same?
I mean, it's hard to say, man. I don't think Brock needed it. I think Brock was a major attraction. He was a star, and he was made. I don't know that it enhanced him anymore. I think it would have been great for Roman if Brock hadn't already done it.
Right.
It would have been a huge thing for Roman. But I don't know that it meant the same to Brock as it would have meant to Roman or anybody else who'd have done it, because Brock was already, Brock had already been there. Brock had already gone off to UFC, and Brock had, he had already had all these major accomplishments, and I don't think that it elevated his stardom like it could have helped somebody else.
Did you, even till the very end, did you fight it?
I didn't fight it as much as I didn't. I always had that belief that I don't think that Brock needed it. Mm-hmm. But I had just one last. When I got there that day, I was still going over.
Wow, that is wild.
Yeah, and then it's in the early afternoon, and I remember sitting in the dressing room, and Vince came in, and I knew as soon as he came in, I knew what it was. Like, he's changed the finish, and I was like, I just I basically give him. I give him my spiel and what I thought, and
which was no, right?
It wasn't no for the sake of not wanting to do the job.
Right.
It was no in the sense that I didn't feel like Brock needed it.
Right.
And and Vince's counter to that was like, if not Brock, who does? Right? Who beats you? And I was like, well,
Right.
Vince could sell ice to an Eskimo.
Sure.
I mean, he's this. But I just brought up as many points as that I thought, like, looking long term down the road, and Vince's his deal too was like, who down the road, right? You don't know at that point. I'm year to year now.
Right.
Like, I don't know when I'm gonna pull the trigger and say enough's enough. So, I think he wanted to make sure that he got that. I don't think he ever envisioned that character riding off into the sunset with a perfect record.
Really?
Yeah, I don't.
Did you?
No, I always thought.
Why couldn't it have?
I mean,
gone down that way?
it could have, but that's just not how it works. There's a lot of guys, and this is even the way I looked at it. I mean, at that point, I'm kind of on the fence, because like I said, I don't know when I'm gonna call it a day, but if I was going to do it, I wanted to do it for somebody, like I said, it was going to be very impactful for that person's career. Selfishly, that would have been great to walk off being undefeated, but that's just not how the business goes. And there's a lot of people that through the years that laid down for me to help me build the mystique of my character and do that. So it's only natural and only right to pay it forward. So I mean, it's everything's bigger. I mean, the business itself is bigger than the one character. So like I said, selfishly, I can look at it and go, yeah, it'd be kind of nice, but it would have been, like I said, it would have been nicer, I think, if I felt like somebody that needed it.
Right.
Brock was worthy of it. I mean, Brock's a huge draw at this point, but I don't think that it helped him the way it would have helped, say, Roman at the time.
There's a similar debate, obviously not the same in length, but who will beat Roman and who needs it, right? Because his streak now has been for so long. What do you think? Like, if it was up to you, who should beat him? How should this end? Because they're so deep into it now, right? We thought maybe in Cardiff it would be Drew McIntyre because they're back in the UK. Doesn't happen then.
Yeah.
There's a debate about Sammy. There's Cody Rhodes. Is there a scenario? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, and you're not a member of Creative, but how do you think that should end?
It's definitely at this point. It's got to be the right person,
right?
And it's got to be somebody that you trust and is not going to flake off and do something, because there's a lot of time and money invested in this whole thing at this point. I think Cody, with the momentum that he had, I think that would be that's the logical guy. Sammy's a dark horse. I don't see those two entities though they're so reliable or reliant on each other. I don't, as talented as Sammy is, I don't know without Roman and that group, he's going to be as entertaining, but is he going to be as meaning? Is he going to mean as much? Because he's such a contrast to what they bring. So,
it's a tough one though.
It
right?
is. It really is tough. They've almost booked themselves into a conundrum here.
Because it's lasted so long.
Yeah.
It can't just be some meaningless.
Yeah,
title
it's got to be somebody they have a lot of faith in and knows is going to be here for the long haul.
One last one, if I could, that I've always wanted to ask you. Speaking of your relationship with Vince, he's always talked about how when the going got tough, you were the one guy who never even flirted with leaving, right? Did it ever get close for you? Did you ever have an offer? Did you ever have something?
Yeah. No, I kind of through like Kevin Nash. Like, we were in this period of time where we had. This is kind of funny for me to say, but like we had all these like ridiculous characters, and just WCW was doing all this cutting edge stuff. But I think, to answer your question in the short, no. But did I think about it? Yeah. Did I have an opportunity to? Yeah.
Oh wow.
But
was your deal up, or was it just like, hey?
My deal would have been coming up.
Okay. Wow.
But it was more. It was more frustration with what we were currently doing, and just feeling like we were stale and behind the times, and so, we were so kid driven. That our demographic was 9 to 12-year-olds, and they were, their demographic down in WCW was 18 to, your 36, 1824, 1836 demographic. They're doing so much more cutting edge stuff. That was appealing, but there was never like, even though it was completely different people, it was WCW that told me that I'd never draw a dime in this business. And as much as I used that for fuel, it was never, as open-minded as I think I am, and as I've matured, you would think like, okay, don't be stupid, take the money. But I just don't think that always hung out there. Like, you're a great athlete, no one will ever pay money to see you wrestle.
Boy, were they wrong.
Thank goodness.
Not only now, they're paying money to just see you talk 30 years later, so they were very wrong.
Yeah, but that was fuel, man. That was fuel for me to give everything I had to this, what I probably thought was my last real go at something, because I'd had a few doors slammed in my face, but that one really stung, because that's where I wanted to be.
Right.
I wanted to be in WCW when I went there as Mean Mark.
Right.
And then to be told that, nah, ain't nobody, nah, you're not. Okay.
Incredible.
Next step.
What a story, what a life, what a career. I can't thank you enough. I mean, this is scrapbook stuff for me. A massive honor, and thank you so much for the time and continued success now in this next chapter as you're doing all of this. And it's great to see you out there still backstage from time to time, and now sharing all these stories that you kept locked inside for 30 years. We are privileged to be exposed to them. So again, thank you, and all the best to you, and I hope you get to do this for many years to come.
I appreciate it, man.
Thank you. The Undertaker, the one and only. Thank you so much for watching this special edition of Ariel Helwani Meets, one that I will never forget. We'll see you next time.